reconvene at 7:18.
Seeing as how this is my agenda item, seeing as how this was my agenda item, I wanted to ask Mr. Cruz, our district's legal counsel, for some clarification regarding tonight's agenda items.
Correct. The first recommendation that I'm going to make is in the policy. You've just obviously got it today, so the recommendation is to table the policy and bring it back for the next board meeting for consideration. That's just with respect to the policy, so somebody needs to make a motion to that effect.
Okay, I'll make a
Clarify the
motion.
policy.
Okay.
The policy is with respect to the shack makeup. Okay, and we don't have a policy in place at all with respect to the shack. This is one that I'm proposing to you. You can study it, and then at the next board meeting, you can either adopt it or not adopt it.
All right, I'll make a motion that we table the possible action regarding enactment of local policy in regards to the shack until the November meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Villalpando seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
Okay, on Ms. Narvaez and her removal from the shack, I think, first of all, I'm glad that there's a lot of young people here because this is going to be an exercise on the issue of the First Amendment. The board has been provided a memo that details a lot of the case law about the First Amendment. As you know, the First Amendment is born out of the U.S. Constitution, passed by the 14th Amendment down to the states, and there's a case that we have by the U.S. Supreme Court that says the First Amendment also applies in public school districts. So the First Amendment applies to students, so those students that may be here tonight or watching. There's a very famous case, Tinker versus Des Moines, that says students do not lose their First Amendment speech when they walk into the schoolhouse door. Then it also has your First Amendment with respect to employees. And the First Amendment also applies to employees, but what they're in limited context, right? Because the employees, though, as you get information on your duties and responsibilities, you can only have that speech that's protected when it's within the four corners of your employment context. So we're not talking about students, we're not talking about employees, we're talking about a volunteer that sits on your Health Advisory Council. So what is the analysis on that? The analysis on that, is there a United States Supreme Court decision on this topic about First Amendment and how it pertains to volunteers? No, there is not. There's not that. But we do have cases around the United States. And we have one in Maryland, we have one in Cameron County, so there's several of them. How do you do your analysis on First Amendment? First of all, is the shack member speech district related? Is what this person's saying out there relating to the school district? So in this case, you can't say that it's a yes, because that's something that we would have to say she's basically getting information from the shack and she's using that. That's not. She's getting information from outside the school district and putting out there in her own time. So is the second analysis, or the second question, is the shack member speaking on a matter of public concern? Clearly that's a yes, because of the fact that her comments about, neo-Nazis or other things out there, immigrants and stuff like that, all of issues that are of today that we see on CNN, Fox News, whatever. So then you go into, if it was not, then the district may regulate the speech, but it is a matter of public concern, so you go to the yes column. And does the district's governmental interest outweigh the member's interest in the speech? So that is where the question is, and in this case, if the answer is yes, the district can regulate the speech, and if the answer is no, the district cannot regulate the speech. You have had one meeting, and at that point, there was no public disruption. I think some people in this room were there. So we don't have any evidence to say at this point that, her comments out there are in some form or fashion, invading the shack's ability to do their job. So in short, and in this analysis, the board cannot engage in viewpoint discrimination to restrict somebody from being on the shack. And that's the analysis.
Okay,
That's,
So in regards to Agenda Item 8B, discussion related to the appointment and removal of School Health Advisory Council members, I'm going to make a motion that under our authority, under Education Code, that we remove all currently appointed School Health Advisory members and reopen the application and vetting process.
Been moved by Mr. Arredondo, seconded by Ms. Halsey. Any discussion?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Thanks all for being here tonight. As trustees, our first priority must always be to serve the best interests of every single student in our district. Since August, I've been advocating for the district to adopt a fair and transparent system consistent with SMCISD bylaws and the Texas Education Code for vetting and appointing individuals to the Student Health Advisory Council. Unfortunately, the vetting and appointment process has been flawed. The board's actions have allowed the appointment of someone who expresses and acts with hatred and bigotry toward many of our students and staff, and whose extreme ideology presents a tremendous liability for and distraction from the critical work of our school district. To be clear, I am sickened by the social media posts and public conduct online that we have all seen from a member of the SHAC. This behavior is wrong, and it violates our community standards. No one here is attempting to violate anyone's right to free speech. SHAC meetings are open to the public, people are free to address the council in public comment, and anyone may request an item be put on the council's agenda. Instead, we are upholding our responsibility to look out for the health of all of our kids. With freedom comes responsibility, and actions have consequences. Words matter. Social media is a platform for public speech and public conduct. We teach our children that their behavior online can have very serious repercussions in real life, and the same goes for adults. Posting or reposting incendiary, bigoted material is never appropriate, especially for a representative of our schools, whether it is intentional or not. Circulating neo-Nazi propaganda is irresponsible, reckless, and potentially incites violence. Fascist rhetoric is not silly, as some have claimed. This is not a joke, and it ought not to be taken lightly. Every student, every staff member should feel safe and welcome in our schools. No student should ever be made to feel inferior because of their race, ethnicity, religion, immigration status, sexual orientation, gender, disability, or economic status. No one should do this to our students, and certainly no adult representing the district. There is absolutely no place for hate and bullying in our schools. Comments made by a SHAC member and the documented instances of said council members' treatment of other community members.
Ms. Henson?
I wanted to make some clarifications and express my ideas and concerns about the SMCISD Student Health Advisory Council, known as SHAC. The board has discussed the membership of the SHAC committee twice before tonight. I'm concerned that the board spends time going over and over and over the same decisions because some board members don't get the vote they want. We need to devote our time to providing policy and resources that will ensure the quality education for all of our students deserve. First, the SHAC is an advisory group. They provide the SMCISD board with information. The SHAC makes no policy. That is up to the Board of Trustees. I've worked for San Marcos CISD as a teacher, dyslexia reading coordinator, director of special education, and assistant principal at the San Marcos High School for 30 of the 32 years of my career as a professional public school educator. After retirement, I came back as a member of the Board of Trustees, serving for the 11 years to date. SMCISD is precious to me. That's why I continue to devote my time and effort to this community. One of the 5 goals of SMCISD is community engagement. This community has always been open, inclusive, tolerant, caring, and compassionate. We teach these ideas to all of our children and students. I've carefully read each of the over 30 emails, both for and against this issue concerning this SHAC. I've also talked individually with several people about the concerns. I firmly believe that what we say and teach is important to our children, but they watch us closely. And they take what we actually do as more important and put it into practice. While I appreciate some of the concerns expressed in the emails, I also have concerns about the bullying and harassment that is taking place through some of these emails. One email told me I needed to think the right way, and I know Ms. Narvaez received actual physical threats. Are these the actions we want our children and students to follow? Who would want to volunteer to serve on a committee for SMCISD? If they're going to continue to yell out, we need to have the police remove them.
Any more outbursts, they will have to have you removed.
Who would want to volunteer to serve on the committee for SMCISD for fear that they might actually be scrutinized and attacked in the manner that Ms. Narvaez has been? Mr. Arredondo had no problems with Ms. Narvaez when he requested her assistance during his 2015 school board election campaign. He only became upset with her when she called him out for not living in the district as required by law. She is concerned that her district is not represented. I wonder how many of you are aware of this fact and his reason for attacking Ms. Narvaez. Mr. Arredondo makes jokes about rape to fellow board members and then adamantly refuses to apologize when asked. Mr. Arredondo has been arrested for public intoxication.
We need to,
Mr. Arredondo requested that a newspaper conduct an open records request on the personnel files of fellow board members who work for the district to try to dig up dirt on them. Maybe you should vet your elected officials who make policy in the same manner as Mrs. Narvaez. Up until this meeting, how much money have we spent on attorney fees?
The kids.
5,600.
It's about the kids. They're gonna give us suicide.
Ms. Hanson, are you wrapping up?
I'm just finish. If I wasn't interrupted, I could finish. Up until this meeting, $5,600 of your taxpayer dollars have been wasted on attorney fees, which does not include the time from the district staff members to prepare this agenda item, and does include tonight's meeting. How much more time and money do we have to waste on this issue? Because I believe that our students and children learn from our action, I will vote to keep all members on the SHAC per the board's decision in September. I hope this board can move on to the more important matters and policy concerning all of our students and staff and stop the infighting among board members.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Calm.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think this night has both been an exercise in patience and democracy. As you can see from my colleagues' eloquent statements, essentially blasting me and distracting from the matter at hand, that we need more citizen engagement in our public schools. Rather than go through the litany of accusations and arguments that Ms. Hanson essentially launched against me, I'll address the School Health Advisory Council appointment process. And I think this process has been broken from the very beginning. Not only did this board not implement a policy for applications or proper vetting, but it was claimed by one of my colleagues that these applicants were in fact vetted. When you asked staff, they submitted an application and it was brought to the board for blanket approval. That is why my motion is what it was, and it's to remove all SHAC committee members and to reappoint and to revet. My final statement is again that elections matter. Please get engaged and get involved, and I think a lot of us have shown our true colors tonight, so I think you'll know that.
Are we ready for the vote? Okay, your motion was that,
We remove all current appointees of the School Health Advisory Council, reopen applications and vetting, and that we appoint them by our October meeting. In November, excuse me.
All in favor of the motion? I have a question. What does vetting mean?
We actually look through the applicants and find out who they are. I mean, whatever that means to you.
The criteria that we established.
Yeah.
Make sure they're not.
okay,
There are guidelines,
ready?
recommendations that we can follow.
Ready for the vote?
Have this. Yes, please.
All in favor? All opposed?
I have a motion.
We have a motion. Ms. Halsey has a motion.
I move that we direct the president and the legal counsel to draft a resolution to disavow any hateful or bigoted speech by Ms. Narvaez and/or any other member of the SHAC or the district.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? You're not voting?
I am voting. But you haven't done the other parts.
All opposed? 6,
Opposed because we name a certain individual.
Kathy Hutchin's her name.
6, I'm sorry. Excuse me, no more outbursts.
Including you.
Thank you. 6-1, the motion passes. Thank you.
Take a brief break, or?
We're going to take a break right now. Let's do about a 10-minute break. Reconvene.